Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We have folks on here from all over the United States, including all you West Coasters, which is why we started at noon. So you're welcome. You didn't have to get out of bed early for this in the morning. I've got an interesting presentation lined up for you. I just thought it would be a good idea to get this out to you because a lot of people come into this industry and they're just after the check, and years go by, and the next thing you know, they look back and say to themselves, wow, what if I wouldn't have cashed out of all of those properties? What if I'd have kept some of them? And, what if? I'm going to go through my presentation, and I'm going to make a case for not selling everything you get, and then I'm going to make a case for selling everything you get. Okay? Then I'm going to let you decide which one applies to you, and maybe a mixture of both. To this very day, I do a mixture of both. But I will tell you, the longer you own a house, the more money it will make you. So this presentation is called Why Cashing Out May Be a Bad Idea, and again, how you can not pay taxes when you do cash out. Now, I'm going to take questions when I'm through, so go ahead and get them up on the board there. Nick, you want to explain to them how to do that in case we have new folks joining us?
Sure. All you do is, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, just type your question right there in the comments. I know Ron does have some rules for questions. We don't want big, long books, and we prefer to be on topics that Ron's already covered.
Well, a question is a sentence, not a page, and try to keep it on what we've covered. And if we get through here and I haven't answered all your questions, which I intend to hang around long enough to do it, then I'll answer them. If you submit them, I'll answer them within the next 24 hours. I don't know how long this is going to take because I haven't done this before. This is a new talk, and I've created it just for this event. So let's get going on it, guys, if we can. Can I have the screen over here? All right. Now I'm going to put up a lot of financial charts, so I can tell you right now, you're probably going to want to take some screenshots, so I'll give you a second to get your cell phone out and get it on the camera position, because you are probably not going to absorb all these numbers as I go through with them. In fact, it might be all you can do to stay awake, but the only way I can compare exit strategies is converting them to numbers, and that's what we're going to do here in several cases. Okay, now here is what most people are doing. They come into the industry and they buy a house and they fix it and they cash out of it by finding a new qualified buyer. Now you've got a lot of hedge funds out there. They're coming in, buying them, fixing them, and just simply renting them. At least they get part of the idea that holding on to them produces more revenue. It also produces cash flow. And then when they think the market is right, then they sell them off. So they kind of got a combination of both. But I'm talking about even holding them on longer term than that when applicable, because the hedge funds are not going to keep them probably more than 5 years before they're going to liquidate them somewhere in that window. So let's just take an example here. Now look, do not get hung up on these numbers. A $150,000 house where some of you live will barely pay the closing cost. I get it. Where others of you live, that's a upper priced house. Let's say I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida, and the median price home here right now is $185,000. So I'm not necessarily on the low end of the country, but I'm not on the high end either. Some of you lives in areas where the median price of a house is $500,000, $700,000 or more. Okay, so all the numbers are relevant. The bigger the numbers, the more money you make per month, and the more money you make on the back end. But I'm going to give you an example I think that everybody can relate to. In this case, I bought the house for $60,000. I spent $40,000 on repairs, which seems to be the number for the last several houses I've renovated, $40,000. Okay, so I sell it for $150,000. Now, if you look down to the bottom, I got a private money loan for $105,000 from a human being, not a loan shark, not a mortgage broker, not somebody that charges points, not somebody that puts me under a one-year balloon or anything, those things that come along with folks that are in the business. We get our money from individuals who who want to get a high rate of return on their money. We dictate the terms. They accept them or not. And in this case, it was 7% interest, and it's accruing. There is no monthly payment on this $105,000 loan because our intention is to buy the property, rehab it, and cash out of it. Our goal is to simply borrow enough money to buy it, rehab it, and hold on to it, and then some until it gets cashed out. So we need $100,000 in this case just to buy it and repair it. So we don't have much of a hedge factor at $105,000, but it's enough to get the job done. But remember, there are no monthly payments. However, interest is accruing. So 7% interest for $105,000 for 6 months. We're going to call this a 6-month deal. 6 months to buy it, fix it, and turn it around. Sometimes you will take longer. Sometimes you should take less. In today's market, it should take less. And if it isn't taking less, it's probably because you stalled it somewhere along the line. You took too long to get a contractor to get you an estimate. You let the contractor take too long to renovate the house or whatever, because it just doesn't take that long to do $40,000 worth of repairs. Normally it's about a month to 6 weeks. Okay, call it 6 weeks, and you still got a long way to go to get to the 6 month. So you should be in and out of this thing well ahead of 6 months. But I'm going to use 6 months here because I know Murphy lives where you live, and he certainly has a house next door to your house. So let's be a little bit conservative, shall we? All right, sales cost. I'm going to sell a house. This house is going to get sold with a realtor. Anytime I renovate a house and I retail it, I list it with a realtor for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm happy to do it, so I don't have to have anything to do with the sales process. The realtor's probably got buyers lined up before I even get this thing finished. The last 2 houses I sold, we listed on Friday, sold on Saturday. Had several different offers on them. That's the market you're in right now. You've got a serious housing shortage right now, which, by the way, I don't think is going to last long. I think you're going to see a total turnaround of that next year. So if you're going to renovate a house, it's a good time to get it done and get it sold. So it costs $9,000 just for the real estate commission alone. Again, I'm happy to pay it. I list it, I set it, forget it, until they send the contract, and then that's all we have to do. So if you've never sold a house to a qualified buyer, then you just cannot understand all the crap that goes along with that. Finding the buyers, screening the buyers, get them in and out of the house, getting them qualified, getting them to a loan broker, originator who's going to get them through all that process, and probably helping him or her get all the information they need to even get it presented to a lender for a loan. And then sometimes about the time you think you got it sold, they back out or they go buy another house with this package you helped them create it. It's a lot of work getting somebody from a contract to the closing table when you're cashing out of a house. And I have no interest in doing any of that work. I'm happy to pay the $9,000. And by the way, if I can't, it's because I paid too much for the house. Make a note of that one. If you can't afford for a realtor to sell this house, you just paid too much. It's that simple. And then I got holding costs. I got taxes that are accruing. I got insurance. I got utilities. I got maintenance. I just put down $2,000 for that amount, which may or may not cover it. Remember, sometimes taxes alone will eat up more than that in a 6-month period. So it depends on where you live. And then I got a Murphy factor in there. I just throw it in a Murphy factor. And frankly, this is a very low Murphy factor. My experience tells me you're going to be hard-pressed to get through this whole process, rehabbing and selling this house, and only have $5,000 worth of expenses you didn't count on. I mean, you think about it. If your repair estimate is low, there goes Murphy. If your sales price gets reduced, there goes Murphy. So don't forget Murphy, because he's not going to forget you. In my example, look at there, we netted $30,000. Now that's not bad. That's not bad. Most people out there renovating houses today would be thrilled to net $30,000. However, then we got Uncle Sam, because remember, Uncle Sam is not going to forget you, even if you've temporarily forgotten him. Now, if you're in the 37% bracket, which I hope you are, that's $11,000 worth of taxes. Okay, so if you're not in the 37%, well, A, you're not making enough money yet, and B, knock it down a little bit. Whatever it is, it's a boatload of taxes that you owe Uncle Sam. So in my case, after tax net is $19,000. And I'm sorry, it does include real estate commission. I don't know why I put that up there, because I got sales cost 6%. That's real estate commission. All right. So I netted $19,000. Now, okay, look, I came home with 30 grand, but Uncle Sam is going to get his share next year. Either way, I didn't net 30. I netted 19 if I'm in 37% bracket. So take a picture of that screen if you haven't already, because we're going to compare it to a different exit strategy and see what happens. Got it? All right. Don't forget, you can put questions up, and I'm going to take them as I go. All right. Now, let's take this same house, and let's don't repair it. Let's lease option it out on a work for equity, or in the case of Texas, we can even sell it with owner financing, or any other state for that matter, as is. Now, that's the whole key, as is, all right? Now, on a work for equity deal, frankly, you're in it for a longer term. You're in it for not getting that big back-end cash right now, but make no mistake, I'm going to show you in a minute that you're going to get plenty of cash out of this thing. In fact, you will probably get more cash out of a work for equity deal up front or close than you will on a rehab deal on the back end. And you still have the asset. So in this case, anytime I'm selling a house on terms, I get to raise the price. So this one, okay, this one, did I repair this one or not? I can't tell if I repaired it. No, I didn't repair this one. So I got to tell you, this is not a good example, because I can't raise the price to $164,900 if, in fact, I didn't repair the house. In fact, I'd have to sell it for cheaper than the $150,000 if I didn't repair it. But I do get to add rent, and that, my friends, goes a long way. Well, wait a minute. Let me catch up here. Looks like I bought this one with owner financing, and I paid $80,000 for it. So it's not the same house we just covered. And I sold it for $164,900, but I collected rent for 5 years. That's $72,000 rent. On the previous example, I do not get to collect rent. The house is vacant until we cash out on the back end. Now, in this case, I did not do any repairs. So the interest still accrues. In this case, I might be making a monthly payment if I bought it with owner financing, or if it was free and clear, I might have structured it so it accrues interest just like a private lender. But most likely, you know what? I'm going to scratch this one, because this example is totally screwed up here. But let me just tell you that anytime you put a house out on a work for equity, you're going to net a lot more money than if you cash out of it, because for one thing, you get to add rent to it. You get to lower the cost considerably. You get somebody in the house right away. They start covering all those holding costs, and you get to sell it for a lot closer to retail price than you would if you had to sell it for cash to an investor. All right, in this case, we're going to rehab and lease option one for 2 years. All right. I'm going to collect rent of $1,400 a month. And now we're back to my $150,000 house. So scratch that last slide. It didn't even belong here. I'm going to rehab one and lease option it for 2 years. So I'm going to sell it for $159,000, whereas the previous one sold for $150,000. We always raise the price when we lease option them out. We get to collect $33,600 worth of rent that we did not collect before. We paid the same $60,000 purchase price. We borrowed the same $105,000 loan down in the lower left-hand corner. In this case, we spent $25,000 on it, because going in, our intention was to lease option it to a tenant buyer and let them have plenty of time to cash us out, and all we need to do is make it livable and presentable. Whereas if I'm trying to cash out now, I'd spend more. I'd put fancy countertops in it. I probably would have to replace the roof. I would probably usually have to replace the flooring. Well, I don't necessarily have to do all of that if it's livable and presentable when I'm putting a tenant buyer in there. And in this case, they're going to buy it as is, but as is not bad. In other words, they're only going to go in there, and if they need to do anything that they like, that they want to fix, go ahead. But if I put 25 grand in this house, it will pass bank scrutiny. In other words, there won't be any cracked glass, there won't be any peeling paint, there won't be any rotten wood, all the electric and plumbing will work. So if the house needs anything, it's just spoof it up, cosmetics, or whatever the tenant buyers want to do to it. But if they could, they'd go to the bank and get a loan on it right now. But that's not the kind of people we're going to put in this house. We're going to put people in here who can't qualify at a bank, which is 70% of your marketplace. Unlike that first house that they have to qualify, this house they do not qualify yet. I'm going to give them 2 years to fix what's broke, such as increasing their credit. We send them to screenthetenant.com if they need credit repair. That's also where we get a little bit of information on them to determine whether we want them or not. Screenthetenant.com, check it out. You'll find them very easy to work with. So interest for 2 years is 16 grand on that private loan down there. It costs us $2,000 worth of closing costs to sell it because I pass almost all of the closing costs onto the tenant buyer when I put them in there, whether it be in excellent condition or work for equity or what. Really cuts down on my closing costs. They got plenty of time to raise the money, plenty of time to raise more down if they need it, and holding cost for 2 years. Now I'm putting my cost in there because I am paying the cost. Keep in mind I'm collecting rent at the top, but I still have the holding cost at the bottom, which is taxes, insurance, and so forth. So yes, I'm washing out these costs, but they are still costs, so I can't add the rent without adding the cost. And the hedge factor is a lot less because I got a tenant buyer in there right away. But Murphy's still around, he's going to want some part of this deal. Right? So I'm netting $79,600 on this house. And because it's long-term capital gains, I'm only paying $9,500 because it's at 15% capital gains rate. Unlike the last one where we cashed out in our first year, whatever tax bracket you're in, 20%, 25%, 37% or whatever, that's the amount you're going to pay on taxes. So I cut my taxes in half most likely just because I held this property for a year. Long-term capital gains. Now look at my after-tax net, $70,000 after-tax net. Is that just a little bit better than $19,000? What's the difference? The difference is on this one I collected no rent. On this one I had my costs were not washed out by the tenant buyer, and I had 2 years go by to make that rent go up and up and up, which technically adds to the profit. So who would believe that you actually make more money holding on to this house for a while than you do if you cash out of it right away? And also, look, I raised the price to $159,000. Between you and me, if I were to renovate this house fully, I'd have raised the price to $159,000 even if I were cashing out of it, because I learned a long time ago I set my own prices, and almost always I get them because I'm not afraid to raise the price. So I elected to spend some money on it, but not the full amount. And there's my numbers. By the way, if you guys got Dreams, that's our CRM system. If you don't have it, you ought to get it. Nick, what website did I go to look into Dreams? ronsva.com. That's Nick back there. Him and John are here behind the scenes filming this thing and got all this equipment set up. While you're there, check out our VA service now, because our VAs will do all the grunt work for you. And then you get leads every day in our Go Club, and the VAs will call them for you. And you take those leads and you can convert them to deals like this. In fact, should I give them the special today or not?
Yes.
Yes? All right. Make a note. If you call our VA department or you go online, what number can they call them? You'll look it up. If you purchase 20 hours of VA service, which is $200, no, that ain't right. How many hours?
10 hours.
10 hours, sorry. I get my twos mixed up. If you purchase 10 hours of VA service, that's $200. We will give you 500 Gold Club points in addition to that. A Gold Club point is $1. Every time you get a point on your Gold Club page, on your membership site, that's worth $1 toward anything, almost anything that we have going forward in the future. So it's in other words, you spend 200, I'm going to give you 500 back, so it amounts to, plus you get 10 hours of VA service. And you'll just have to go look into what the VAs will do for you, because they'll do almost everything for you. All right. What if it takes 5 years to cash out of that same property? And in this case, I don't even see where I've had one tenant buyer move out, but notice I did raise the price. I raised the price to $179.9, which is very, very reasonable, because I only gave that first tenant buyer 2 years to buy. Okay, if they don't buy at the end of 2 years, I reserve the right to raise the price if the prices have gone up, and I can assure you they'll go up to from $159 to $179 in 5 years, and probably a lot more. Okay, I paid 60 grand for the house. I spent the same 25 on it. Okay, now I got interest that I'm paying for 5 years. That's $37,000 worth of interest, and I'm paying that monthly, incidentally. When I'm doing these long-term deals, ladies and gentlemen, I make interest-only payments. I don't want this interest to accruing. Pretty soon, my principal balance plus my interest is huge. Remember, I'm collecting rent, so I have no problem making the payment out of that rent, but I make it interest only. So at the end of 5 years, my principal is the same, thus ensuring me a nice cash flow along the way. If you look at the top, collected $84,000 in rent, but I'm only paying out $37,000 of it in interest. So the rest of it I get to keep over a 5-year period. It's $10,000 a year, positive cash flow. That ain't bad. It's all in the way you structure this thing. Okay, same $2,000 in sales cost, but I got about $20,000 in holding cost over 5 years. Remember, taxes over 5 years, insurance over 5 years, about $20,000 on this low-end house. And same $2,000 with a hedge factor. And you know, if you want to increase that, increase it, because if you do have one tenant move out over a 5-year period, then you might have to do a little bit more work. But on the other hand, we get to add back in that new tenant's non-refundable deposit if we do that. All right, so look at that. I'm netting $117.9, and I take out my 15%. Look at that number at the bottom. $100,000 net on this one property because I held it longer, and at the same time I was getting all of that cash flow. Plus I was getting the depreciation. Plus I was getting the appreciation. So in other words, my wealth just keeps on growing because I did not cash the property out. The golden goose just keeps on producing golden eggs. Now the truth is, when I put somebody in a house on a lease purchase, I really don't expect them to ever buy. And only about 10% of them do buy. Now that's their choice, not my choice. I put them in there, I give them plenty of time. I take their non-refundable option deposit, and then every once in a while I get a call saying that they're buying. Most of the time I get a call saying they're moving. So when I get a call saying they're moving, I put another one in. So take a look at this example on the board, because what I have not put up here is a forfeited non-refundable option deposit. In this case, I'd probably get a minimum of $15,000 up front. So if this tenant buyer moves out, say in 2 years, I go collect another $15,000. We get to add that $15,000 to the profit at the bottom. Not the first 15, it's already built into these numbers, but the second 15 is pure profit. So in my experience, I got, I don't know, I got at least 2 houses right now that I've had tenants in for over 10 years. They had the option to buy for 1 year. Their option expired 9 years ago. They're still in the house. They're still paying rent. God bless them. I hope they stay there forever. One of them's already paid off one of my houses. I got a townhouse right down the street. In fact, I got one on each side here. The one down the street, I'm on my sixth tenant buyer. It's a small unit. Average deposit's $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. But hey, I'm on my sixth one. Still own the golden goose. Totally paid off. And I got one around the corner here. I'm on my fourth one. My fourth. So, you know, these non-refundable deposits that get forfeited and they walk away from, I don't care how you look at it, they're going to get added to this profit. So I am in no hurry to sell this house, none whatsoever. But next thing you know, you look back a few years later, your house is free and clear. All right. Now, there was no debt pay down on any of these things now because they were interest-only loans. Whether it was a cash one or whether it was the one you put out there for 5 years, I'm paying interest only. So don't forget, I owe the same amount of principal on the month number 60 as I owe on month number 1. Now, I know what you're asking. You're asking me, well, what happens if I can't pay it off at the end of 5 years? What do I do? What do I do? My private lender lent me the money for 5 years. Well, answer is simple. Number one, you call your private lender up and get it to extend it. And here's what you're going to learn when you start dealing with private lenders. They do not want their money back. Well, they do want it back, but they don't want it back now, because if they get it back now, they're not getting that 7% interest. If their intent was to put it out and get it back, they wouldn't have put it out to begin with. They want to put it out and let it work. Let it work. Like, make that 7% interest. Most of them will extend it. In fact, they'll tell you, well, you got another house to put it in if you pay me back. Now, every once in a while, one of them will want it back. Okay, 5 years has gone by, reasonable to expect. You just get another private lender to buy that loan. I don't even have to pay that one off. I just get another private lender to put up the same amount of money I owe the seller and the seller will assign that note to my new private lender, and at the same time will extend it for another 5 years. Instead of even, in other words, there's no closing cost downtown whatsoever to pay that loan off and incorporate another one. Probably a little bit more than you can absorb right now, but there's always an answer. And Nick, do we have any questions to this point?
Yes.
All right.
All right, first question. I'm going in reverse here. I got Todd says, since most tenant buyers don't buy, what's your strategy to get out from under the loan for the long term?
I think I just answered that, didn't I?
Maybe. He might have asked that a couple minutes before you
Okay,
answered.
well, there's two things here now. I got one up here right now where I'm buying it with owner financing. All right, if I'm buying it with owner financing, then I'm going to do the same. Let's say I get to the end of a 5-year balloon. First of all, I'm going to try my best not to ever have a balloon at all. And most of the time, I don't have any balloons because of the way we negotiate them up front. But if I do have a balloon and I get to the end of it, the seller's got two choices. I call them up and I say, listen, I'm at the end of my 5 years. My buyers haven't cashed me out yet, so I'd like for you to extend it. And if they don't want to do that, well, do you want the house back? Because those are the only two choices. And remember, folks, we do not personally guarantee debt. That means we're always in control. And that's the only two choices the seller has. Now, they might want the house back. I don't know. But I will tell you, they'll most likely extend it. You may even need to add a little bonus in there, maybe even add some extras. I don't know. I wouldn't offer money if I could help it. But maybe raise the rate or whatever you can think of. Or maybe you raise the principal amount, whatever you think of. But I wouldn't do anything until I just ask them to extend it. Look, you've been making them payments for 5 years, okay? They certainly trust you by now. So just simply ask them to extend it. And they don't want the grief. And there's no need for them to foreclose, because if they threaten to do that, well, hey, I'll give you the house back, as long as you pay the closing cost to transfer ownership of it. Now, remember, don't be putting a tenant buyer in this house where their option expires after your balloon expires. That's a no-no. Make sure that your tenant buyer's right to buy expires well before your balloon to the seller, because you don't want to get those in reverse, okay? So now your tenant buyer's got no claim because their option has already expired. And of course, you're going to make it clear to them well in advance, like maybe a year, that we're running out of time here. You got to get to the bank and get a loan. What can I do to help you? So you're not just going to wait to the end of 5 years and hope everything works out okay. You're going to use your head and plan a little. Go ahead.
All right. This was a good reminder. Last week we established that it would be a lot easier for us if you guys put a queue out in front of the question, so I can figure out which ones are comments and which ones are questions. So if you could start doing that, put a queue out there if you have a question that you want me to ask Ron.
That's a good idea.
All right. Let's see. Can you sell a house on work for equity in Texas?
Yeah. You're selling it with owner financing, but you can sell it as is, yes. Now, you need your attorney to come up with these, special documents. Like, it's got to be crystal clear they're buying it as is, as a condition of the purchase, and they're getting a discount for it, and blah, 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 blah. But since you're selling with owner financing, that's just an as-is sale. That's common anywhere.
All right. Is lease option synonymous with rent to own?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
Not pretty much, they are the same thing.
All right. Terry says, I have the VA service already. If I purchase 10 hours today, will I qualify for the 500 points as well?
Yep, you sure will.
Okay. Gary says, where is the money that you borrowed get paid back?
When your tenant buyer goes to the loan and goes to the bank and gets a loan, everything below has got to get paid off, including your seller or anything else that's owed. No closing agent will close it without that stuff getting paid off.
All right, and last question for now is from Alfonso. Says, if you're selling a junker on a work for equity with seller financing, ideally what percentage or amount down would you want to get from your buyer?
Every dime I can get, Alfonso. Okay, I don't set the down payment, sir, nor do I set the monthly payment. I let the market tell me what they will pay. So we attract buyers, and here they come in, and then we ask them, what's the most you can put down? And then we ask them, really, is that the best you can do? Okay, what's the most you can pay per month? Wow, expected more than that. And you get it up. So you take pretty much you take your highest bidder. They just don't know they're bidding against anybody else. But we never name the down payment or the monthly payment. And that's how we get these big down payments. We play the market a while. Now, the lower end house, the more people are going to come in with very little money. So what? There's always people come in with enough money to satisfy you. Higher end of the house, more people got more money. So, if I'm selling a $500,000 house, nobody's looking at it that's totally broke. They have money to put down.
That's good for now.
Good for now? All right. Okay, this one, there's only two ways to buy. You can buy with cash or you can buy with owner financing, or a combination of the two. But in this case, well, let's see. Does it say what we bought it here for? Oh, you buy with owner financing and hold for 5 years. Didn't I just do this one? I thought I did. Give me a minute here, folks. I wrote this stuff. You'd think I'd know it, wouldn't you? Oh, in this case, though, looks like I've got debt pay down, so therefore I'm paying, oh yeah, I bought it with owner financing, so I'm paying principal and interest. So the only difference between this one and the last one is that I made 60 payments, but out of that came a $21,000 debt pay down. So that increased my net profit a little bit, but not that much, frankly, whether I let the interest accrue. In other words, in 5 years, it looks like I only paid about $9,000 on, no, I paid $21,000 on debt pay down. So anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is you can pay cash for them and get a private loan, as long as you keep that interest rate at a reasonable number. Or you can take them over subject to, which is what most investors out there do with these properties that need work, or you can buy them with owner financing. I've done all three and still do all three, but if I'm buying them with owner financing, they can be in good shape or they can be in poor shape. If they're in good shape, I lease them out for a higher price, get a bigger down payment. If they're in not so good shape, I lease option them out as is on a work for equity for a lower price. I get a lower down payment, but on the other hand, I don't have anything in the house. So whatever I get down, I get to keep, and then I get the monthly cash flow. And in this case, 5 years, that's a lot of cash flow, and it's a big net profit. I'm going to tell you before we're done here how to never pay taxes on that $109,000, but in reality, that's the amount you would net on this house. But Ron, I need the cash now. Well, okay, I knew that was coming. If I do this work for equity stuff or this owner financing stuff, I got to live. I got to have big money. Well, when you cash out immediately, you don't get another dime until you close, 4 to 6 months later. In fact, you're writing checks till you close. When you lease option, if I borrowed 105 and I paid 60 and I spent 25 on it, that's 85. That means I came home with $20,000 more than I needed if I bought it for 60 and only spent 25 on it. If I spent 25 on it, remember, I did not complete the repairs all the way to the nth degree like I would have from cashing out of it. So I got 20 grand the day I bought it. It's not profit, but it's money I can use for whatever I want. It's cash flow. I also got another $15,000 deposit from my tenant buyer. That's $35,000 I got very quickly. Plus I get $35,000, okay, it's $35,000 I got in the first month that I bought the property. Here's a comparison. If I cash out now, I get $30,000 before taxes. It's going to take 120 to 180 days. Probably want to take a picture of this one. If I lease option it, I get $20,000 from the loan. If I'm borrowing 105, I get $15,000 from the deposit. And I put day 45. It ain't going to take 45 days to put tenant buyer in that house. But, you know, if I'm spending 25 on it, maybe it will. So I got $35,000 within 45 days. And I keep getting money every single month for as long as this deal goes on. Now, would I rather have $30,000 in 6 months that I have to pay short-term capital gains on and give IRS a big chunk of it, or would I rather have $35,000 within 2 months and not have any taxes to pay because I still own the property and continue to get all these benefits from owning real estate? I get income, I get depreciation, I get equity every month. If I took over the debt, principal pay down. If I didn't, the value is probably going up. Either way, I'm getting more and more equity every month. Appreciation would give me more equity and leverage. I got leverage because when I get into these properties, I'm going to get into them with little or none of my own money. When I'm borrowing more money than I need to buy and fix the house, I am literally getting into them and bringing home cash if I'm paying cash for the property. If I'm taking over debt or I'm buying it with owner financing, my upfront cash is going to be less, but because the tenant buyer is going to put up a non-refundable deposit. However, I don't have that loan to borrow. I don't have to go find a private lender, and I don't have to find a deal that I can buy good enough to bring home $20,000. So I would rather buy with owner financing and subject to, and then put tenant buyers in it, and I don't even have to deal with the private lenders. But hey, most people out there looking for the junkers, and I can tell you right now, if you want to look for the junkers, you need to get out of the MLS and get into the world of FSBOs. And I got a nice bonus coming up for you here at the end, because I just did a 3-day event on just exactly that, which is called How to Find Motivated Sellers in Any Market. Really killer event. So when the goose dies, you get one check and a big tax bill. Long live the goose. Sadly, some geese must die. Look, if you need a check like you need oxygen, if getting that check is the only thing important to you, and it's a big enough check to where you can't sleep at night if you don't get it, then get the check. Get the check, all right? We both know that cash is king, and until you get cash in the bank, and you can't sleep good till you do, and the larger your bank account, the better you sleep. That I can tell you for sure, all right? So you're going to have occasions where you can just sell this thing, cash out, and get a great big check. In fact, that probably is exactly what you're going to do until you don't need that check anymore. And then you will not sell it, even if you can cash out. You'll put a lease option tenant buyer in it. But in the beginning, get the check. But don't make it a habit. Everybody that I know starts that way, and next thing you know, 20 years later, they're still getting a check, getting a check, getting a check. They're not getting all these other benefits of real estate. And that, my friends, is the whole reason I'm doing this broadcast for you. Open up your mind and quit watching those reality TV shows because there's no reality in them. They're absolutely fake news. They're all made up. They're all entertainment. Those numbers they're showing you are just not the full picture. Next time you watch one of them, wait for them to explain to you about all of the expenses that were in this process of buying in rehab. All they show you is here's what I pay, here's what I spent on repairs, here's my profit. What a load of crap. That ain't nowhere near what their profit is. And on many of those shows, they don't even own those houses. They're all fake. If you don't need the cash, let the goose live. If you need the cash, it's the goose or you. Of course, it's the goose that's got to go. All right. Now, warning. Know your math. Higher price versus lower price. Okay? Let's do a cash out comparison. And this one makes the case for all you rehabbers to stop looking at the mid or upper priced houses to do your rehabs. I will confess there are great deals in mid to upper price houses, but they are scarce, really scarce. The most of the deals are in the lower price stuff. I don't care where you are in America, and I don't, whatever the definition of lower price is where you're at. Let's take a look at deal number one. I got a $150,000 ARV, $60,000 purchase, and I borrowed 105, 70% LTV. That's the highest you want to go, and I netted 30. All right. Now let's say I kind of like the deal in houses. By the way, my median price house in Jacksonville is a 185, so this is well below medium, and this is where I rehab. Most of the houses I rehab are at or just above or well below medium. All 1,000 or more of them that I rehab. Number two, I decided I want to up the ante, and I move up into the neighborhood, and I got a $300,000 ARV. I ain't buying that $300,000 ARV for the same percentage of value that I bought that first one. Because the higher price you go, the higher percentage of ARV you're going to have to pay to get that property bought, because the bigger the demand, especially from owner occupants. I'd be lucky to buy that house for $200,000, even if it needs, $30,000, $40,000 worth of work, and it probably does need at least that. I can't borrow more than $210 on it. That's 70% of the ARV, and by the time I borrow the $210 on it, pay $200 for it, and then do $30,000 or $40,000 worth of work on it, I'm going to be very lucky. I mean lucky to net $40,000 on this deal. Now I know that's hard for beginners to see. All they see is the difference between the 200 and the 300. But don't forget all the costs that go along with it. And also don't forget that I've got to borrow 2 times the amount of money to get just $10,000 more in profit. So my capital required is higher. My profit is not much higher, and the loan won't cover the purchase and the rehab. Go back for a minute. Let me show. I can't borrow enough money to buy this house and rehab this house, because the rehab is going to be more than 10 grand, or you're not going to get it for 200 grand. So now I got to come out of pocket with rehab costs. And no, I can't borrow from a private lender. I'm already at 70% LTV. So I got a big problem. It's called write a check. I got twice the interest cost because I got twice the amount that I borrowed. And I'm going to have a higher repair cost because I've got to spend more money renovating a $300,000 house than I do a $150,000 house. I mean, it just stands the reason my repair costs are going to be much higher. A little nicer stuff in it. And also, the $300,000 house is probably a little larger than my $150,000 house, which automatically raises the cost. Now, holding costs will be double. Double the taxes, double the interest, pretty much double everything. And then I'll double the commission. If I'm going to cash out of this thing, the commission is more on a 300 than it is on a 150. Duh. Double the closing cost. And I'm going to double the risk. For what? An extra $10,000. Sit down and do your math on these higher priced deals. factor in all of the cost and see if you like the bottom line, but don't kid yourself. All of these costs are part of this job, and the higher price you go, the bigger gap you got to have between purchase price and R, or you're going to learn a very, very hard lesson that there ain't going to be anything left when you get through. I'm going to stick to the lower priced houses if I want to rehab, because I can get better deals on them. I can get a much higher spread between the ARV and the asking, and the ARV and my purchase price. All my other costs are lower, plus that's where the big, big, big market is in the lower priced houses. They'll go as fast as you get them on the market for first and last time home buyers. Even worse, it's hard to keep the goose alive. What I mean by that is, if I'm paying on a $210,000 loan and I want to keep the goose alive, I want to put somebody in there long term, 7% from a private lender and pay just interest only, it's $1,225 a month. Now add taxes and insurance to that on a $300,000 house. You're going to be lucky to collect enough rent to break even, much less have a positive cash flow. And that's just interest only. That's not even paying any principal down. So the bigger the numbers, the bigger your outgo, not necessarily the bigger your rent. Yeah, you'll collect more rent on a $300,000 house than you do on a $150,000, but it's amazing how little bit more you will collect. It's certainly not double. Taxes and insurance will be much higher, and it's unlikely you'll be able to even break even. Okay? And you still have cash buried in it. Remember, you're not putting a tenant buyer in this house without leaving your cash in it, because your 210 won't cover it. So to make this simple, spending more money and taking risks does not mean you make more money. It means you need to do your math. And by the way, built into our dream system, you can plug in this house, plug in your assumptions, and it'll show you the best time to sell, and it'll show you what the potential profit would be, whatever time you want to plug in there. So get them the dream system. When you call the VA, ask them about the dream system. It's only $297 a month for Gold Club, Dreams, your website, your buyer's list, and a whole bunch of other stuff. You quit anytime you like. So before you make financial decisions, take time to do the math. Math first, then decision, and use dreams. It amazes me how many people will go into a business, any business, and forget to do the math before they even start the business. Okay? The only way you're really going to understand what the costs are is to get trained by someone who knows what the costs are, because they actually have borne these costs many, many times. I'm going to give you a chance to do that here when I'm done. But you're either going to learn it from someone else that's already paid the price, or you're going to go out and learn on your own. Everybody ignores these costs, or they totally, grossly underestimate them when you're buying and renovating a house. You've got to learn your math. You've got to be conservative with your math, and don't let the spreadsheets trick you, because I've never seen a spreadsheet work out like the way it's supposed to. Murphy. Now, don't forget, you can do these things in your IRA and let the geese live, and literally collect money for long, long periods of time. In fact, one of these townhouses I was telling you about is owned by my IRA. That townhouse, I'm trying to think, I believe that this coming December will be the 8th year that I've owned that townhouse. 8th year. Free and clear, sitting in my IRA, just churning and burning, the goose lives. And, you know, what's it costing me? It costs me nothing. IRA is making money on it. But, a warning, if you buy a property in your IRA and it comes with debt, or you get a loan on it, not you. You can't get a loan on a property in your IRA, but your IRA can, as long as it's non-recourse, which means no personally guaranteed debt. Okay, well, if I get a loan from a private lender, it's not personally guaranteed anyway. If I take over debt subject to, or I do with owner financing, that's not personally guaranteed either way, anyway. So your IRA can do all of that, but probably shouldn't. If there's debt involved, I got another plan for you. But if there's not debt involved, let's say my IRA's got enough cash in it, buy a house, rehab the house, cash out of it. What a great use of your IRA money. Let's say I want to wholesale a house in my IRA. What a great use of your IRA. Or even a lease option. Lease options are not debt. Okay? So you can do all of these in your IRA and never pay income taxes on it if it's a Roth IRA. And look, if you haven't investigated that, we have lessons on the Gold Club all about that. Go to our website and check it out, because I've done several seminars on how to use your IRA correctly and what it can do and what it can't do, and the traps if you're not careful. So, 2010, they added a new rule that if your loan is paid off at least a year before you sell the property in your IRA, then it will not trigger UBIT. All right. Well, look, the little townhouse down the street, I put a loan on it for 5 years with a private lender. That loan paid off. Okay, it's been 2 years later. Still haven't sold it. Don't want to sell it really. So even if I sell it now, there's no UBIT. Right? On the other hand, if you're going to take over a debt, or buy a house with owner financing, long-term deal, 20, 25 years, you're going to be unlikely to sell it, to pay a loan off a year before you sell it. So buying a property with owner financing or any long-term debt inside your IRA is not recommended by Ron LeGrand when you can do it without paying taxes with a solo 401k. Now, you probably have not heard of that yet, but you do not have to have we use questtrust.com for our IRAs, but you don't even need to use Quest Trust for your 401k. Banks will do them for you. Not all banks, so you have to call the bank and ask them if they do solo 401ks. Make sure you say solo 401k now, not because there's several kinds of 401ks. Now here's why you want to get a solo 401k. Number one, you have to have an LLC and can have no other employees than husband and wife. That's it. That's easy. You can form an LLC in 30 minutes. Okay? Husband and wife are employees. Or just husband or just wife, either way. Now, you can contribute up to $62,000 for husband and wife. Okay, I don't care about that. I don't care how much you contribute, because that's not what this is about anyway. But you can go up that high. Now, you get to choose whether you want this to be treated as a Roth or treated as a traditional IRA. In my opinion, you want it treated as a Roth, because that means all the money you make in this solo 401k is tax-free forever. Unlike traditional, you get to write off your contribution, but you've got to pay taxes when you take it out. With a Roth, you don't write off your contribution, but you never pay taxes. It's a beautiful thing. The IRS gives you a choice. In a solo 401k, you can borrow up to $50,000 or 50% of your account's value, which you cannot do with your IRA. How you pay it back, I don't know. If you pay it back, I don't know, but you can borrow up to $50,000. But I'll be careful. This is not about taking money out of your Roth or your solo. Because please remember this. Every dollar you take out of your IRA or your solo 401k is a dollar that does not grow tax-free for the rest of your life. This will be the most expensive money you've ever borrowed. These two accounts are to take care of you when you want to retire or pass on to your kids, regardless. I would not be looking at them to take money out unless I am totally done and decide I want to live off these things that I've built so large. So listen to this now. You need to understand, it ain't about contributions. It's about creating revenue by using these two items, these two accounts, to buy and sell houses. Either one of them, you can keep the houses in them long term, but again, if it's got debt, I'm going to put that kind of house in the solo 401k because it's got debt. So even when it sells, look at that next line, that's the biggie. It does not trigger UBIT if it comes with debt in a solo 401k. That's a beautiful thing. So now I can do the debt deals in this You can do other deals in my Roth. Yes, you can have them both. And yes, I think you need them both. But you've got to understand, all these two entities is a thing to own the real estate deals that you'd normally do outside of these entities. Now, these entities, you do not want these entities on title. I've done many seminars prior to where I tell you to buy houses in a land trust and then have these entities own the land trust perhaps, but never put these entities on title, because if you do, everything in your entity is at risk if something goes wrong on that house. If you want to know more about this entity structuring, asset protection and stuff, you should call in my office and get my Structuring Your Empire course. It's a 2-day event with an attorney that I went over all of this stuff, including IRAs and entities, asset protection, estate planning, tax reduction, and other stuff with an attorney. That's a $1,500 item that you can get for $497 if you call in today. $497, that's stealing it. And you don't like it, send it back 30 days to look at it, okay? But you'll like it. All right, so back to the purpose of doing this. Let's say you want to go buy a house with owner financing and you got to pay closing costs. Okay, you would pay the closing costs out of this account. Let's say they are $2,000. All right, well, the $2,000 must come from this account. If you don't have enough in it, just make a contribution to make sure you have enough in it. Now let's say this account buys that house and that house sells and it nets 50,000 bucks. No matter how it sells. Okay, that $50,000 comes back into this solo 401k, tax-free forever. Just remember, it's not about what you contribute. It's about using your head and leveraging your brain to take a little bit of money to make a lot of money because you understand this real estate business. Now just deciding to do it inside of one of these entities instead of outside. Tax-free versus taxed. Sit down sometime, compute for yourself the difference, and you'll be blown away. And this much I can tell you. If I take X number of dollars outside of my IRA and invest it at any rate you like, in 10 years, I do the same thing inside of my IRA and invest it at the same rate, the same amount of money. In 10 years, I'll have 10 times more money in my IRA than I will outside because I didn't have to pay taxes on the gain every single year inside where I did outside. It's amazing how fast the money compounds inside your IRA. Okay, you can use a local bank to set it up. And there is an annual filing. It's very simple. And frankly, probably wouldn't let your CPA do it anyway. But there's nothing, it's not a big tax return. There's nothing you need to be concerned about. As I understand, it's one page. All right? So check this thing out with your bank. Call your bank, call a few other banks, and if they don't know who sets them up, I am sure they do know who sets them up where you live. Gosh, surely could have questions on that one, Nick.
You ready?
Because if I don't, they weren't paying attention.
You want some of that?
Yeah.
All right. It is a lot easier with these cues here. All right, first question is from Addie.
Mm-hmm.
How do you transfer ownership of cars to a trust?
Addie, it depends. Because if you got a loan on that car, your lender's not going to let you transfer it to a trust. If you don't have a loan on it, you can simply, you should go down to your DMV. Well, you don't even go down to them anymore, but make an appointment with them 7 years from now or whatever. And you literally, it's the same as if you're selling your car to me, except you're selling it to your trust. Now the question is, are they going to make you pay sales tax? So you're going to have to find somebody with some brains within the DMV because you have the right to put your property into a trust without paying sales tax. But I'm not telling you that everybody behind those desks understands that. So you check that out first because you don't want to pay sales tax to put it in there.
All right, next question is, if your buyer can't get a loan from a bank at first, how would they be qualified at the end of the lease option?
They wouldn't, but they've got years to get qualified. Whatever is broke now, they got a long time to fix it, okay? Usually it's credit. ScreenTheTenant.com. will clean up their credit, raise their credit score 70 to 100 points in 6 or 7 months. And it's a lousy $99 a month for 6 months for them to do that, okay? If your buyer really wants to get the house bought, you might refer them to them, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do is refer them to them, all right? And whatever else might be broke, maybe it's debt ratio. Well, they got years to fix it, okay? At least a couple I give them. Whatever else, maybe they can't prove income. Well, go to work now and start proving the income. Gosh, maybe they just opened a business and they haven't owned it long enough. Well, 2 years, plenty of time to go back. And so any of these things can be fixed, right? You know what's broke going in. By the way, Screen the tenant will literally contact your buyer, have them pull their own credit report, and they'll examine it. He'll do a Megan's Law search, he'll do a background search, and he'll do a debt-to-income ratio, and he'll tell you what they got to do and how long he thinks it's going to take to get done. He'll tell them the same thing. By the way, your total cost for that is $50 lousy, okay? ScreenTheTenant.com. Hope I answered that question.
Okay. All right. Cam Lesh says, how do you borrow more than you need, including rehab? Most hard money lenders ask for down payment for purchase and finance 100% rehab interest
Well,
only.
you didn't listen. Okay, we're not going to hard money lenders. We're going to private lenders, people you know, people you find around, and people who have money in accounts, IRAs and other, they just want to get a high rate of return. In our world, we don't go to people who make the rules. We don't go to mortgage brokers. We don't go to hard money lenders. We go to humans. And for them to get a 7% rate of return on their money is about 14 times what they're getting in their bank account, and they're thrilled to do it, safely secured by a first mortgage on a piece of real estate. It's all about opening your mouth. And by the way, I'm going to offer you some training here in a little bit. Might want to think about getting there, because Jay Conner will be there and show you exactly how to raise private money. He's become the king of it. Raised $2.25 million his first 90 days in business, which was now 11 years ago when he attended that same event. So it's about learning the difference and learning how to approach people. And believe me, you're doing them a huge favor when you offer them the opportunity to get that kind of return safely secure. Where else are they going to get that safe of an investment? It sure ain't going to be the stock market. Real estate's not going anywhere.
All right, and I think that probably just answered this question. Where are you borrowing from and why?
People. Remember, that's only if you're paying cash, guys. Okay, I very rarely, most of my deals, about 90% of my deals, I'm either taking over debt or I'm buying with owner financing. We don't need any private money. We don't need any money except maybe for closing costs.
All right. Aren't you forced to take your money out of your Roth IRA in your mid-60s?
No, that's your traditional, and it's 70 and a half. It sucks. A Roth, you can pass it on to your heirs if you want. You never have to take it out.
All right. Sherry says, do I have to put money in my IRA to put a house in it?
Well, your IRA has to put up the earnest money deposit. Maybe that's only $100, but yeah, you'll need some money in there. That's just your initial contribution. When you say to put a house in it, you're scaring me a little bit there, Cherry, because you cannot live in a house that your IRA owns. Make sure you understand that. So your IRA can put up a $100 deposit, and then you can buy that house like you would normally buy it. Now, again, if you're buying it, you're probably paying the closing costs, so your IRA needs enough money to do that as well. But then the IRA will, you will close the property in a land trust, which there's plenty of lessons. In fact, that Structuring Your Empire just told you about. There's a whole hour-and-a-half lesson on just that. And there's plenty of them on our Gold Club site. But you'll buy it in a land trust, simple entity. And you got two choices from there, which I also discuss in this thing. You can have an LLC that owns your land trust, which is my favorite way of doing it. Land trust owns house, LLC owns land trust, IRA owns LLC. I'm sure that was crystal clear, right? Okay. But if you're not ready to do an LLC, then your IRA can own the land trust. You just fill in the blanks that your IRA is a beneficial interest. So that's all it takes to buy it. Now, again, the money's got to come from your IRA to buy it. From that day forward, everything that has to do with that house goes into your IRA makes the payment, your IRA collects the rent, and so forth. Which is why I suggest that you have an LLC that is owned by your IRA, and now everything you do for your IRA can be done from that LLC, instead of going back and forth with Quest Trust or whoever. The LLC writes the check, the LLC collects the rent, it makes the payments and so forth.
All right. Brian says, what does UBIT stand for?
Unrelated business income tax.
All right. Cherie again says, when you compare IRA and solo, do you mean Roth IRA?
Yes.
All right. And when
Okay, look, you can do both, but I can't imagine why anybody wants a traditional and you have to pay taxes on it. Just get a Roth.
and when you say LLC with spouse only, you previously said children, if only have 2% in LLC, is okay.
Oh, well, I did not say that. There is no definite amount of percentage in the LLC. You can give them anything you want. I got a couple of kids in mind. They get 0.5%. That's more than they deserve. They didn't do anything to get it. But that percentage is up to you and how much you like your children. Don't forget now, whatever percentage you give your children, when you take a draw, they have to get a draw that matches it in a prorated share. So, 0.5% ain't a lot of money, but don't forget to write that check to them at the same time you write that check to you. And then whether you give it to them, okay, maybe they keep it, or maybe they give it back to you for rent or whatever. I don't know, up to you.
All right. Alfonso says, if selling a house on seller financing and we close on the 15th, when would the buyer's first payment be due to me?
That's totally on how you structure it, Alfonso, because it can be two ways. It can be many ways, but normally I let their first payment, well, actually, I just ask them, okay, do you want to pay me a half a month's interest in 2 weeks, or do you want to pay me a month and a half's interest in 6 weeks? Leave it up to them.
All right. Julie says, is solo 401k the same as a self-directed 401k?
No. No, because there's also an IRA 401k, but unfortunately it lives by the same rules as the IRA. This solo 401k doesn't.
All right. Keith says, which is better, solo 401k or a Roth IRA?
Yes. They both have their purpose. They both have their purpose. If I were you, I'd probably think about doing them both. As I said earlier, anything that doesn't come with debt is good for your Roth, and anything that does come with debt is good for your solo 401k. Now, in case you're solo 401k, you can do all kinds of deals in it, it's true, but, you can have them both. And you can have as many IRAs as you want as well. But remember, to have a solo 401k now, you've got to have an LLC, and there cannot be any employees in it other than you and your spouse.
All right. Can I use a credit union to get a solo 401k?
I don't know. You'll have to ask the credit union. You might.
Can you have your kids on your LLC and do a deal with your self-directed IRA?
No. The LLC that owns your IRA cannot have anybody else in it. You cannot do business. Anybody in your family cannot get compensated for any of the activities of that LLC or your IRA. And that means up or down, children, grandchildren, grandparents, all the way up or down, including you and your spouse, or any other entities you control, cannot get a dime from that LLC that is owned by your IRA until you take the money out of the LLC and put it back over in your IRA and draw on it as normal. Which, by the way, you can take money out of your IRA anytime you want. There's no lock and key on it. It's your money. If you take it out under 59.5, you'll pay a tax on it. If you take it out over 59.5, you'll pay nothing on it. But you can always take out your contributions with no penalty. So understand the rules and quit worrying about taking it out, because it's all about putting it in as long as you're able.
All right. Phyllis says, what if you are a widow? How would you set up your LLC then?
Well, I don't know, because you didn't tell me if you have any children or not. You might want to consider them. And if you don't have children, is there anybody else that you would like to have a little piece of your LLC? And if you're asking me this, Phyllis, I know because you heard me say never a solo LLC, and that is still true, but this is something you need to go to an estate planning firm and get them to put together your estate plan, and this would be one of the questions you ask them: how can I own this LLC so that it is going to be very tough for predators to come take it away from me if something goes wrong? and let them tell you.
All right. Alfonso says, does your private lending course cover how to exit a property with seller financing as opposed to a lease purchase?
Does my private lending course?
Yeah. Our terms course covers that.
Terms course covers it. My Quick Start School covers it. It's not what my private lending course is able to do. It's about borrowing and lending private money. My private lending course, which is available here, but no, that's not. Come to Quick Start School. I'm going to give you a good opportunity to do that here in a minute.
Alfonso's been a few times. I've seen him on there.
Okay, well then come on. You mean at school?
Yeah.
Okay, well then come back, because if you're asking me that question, you must have missed something. It's free the first year, you know. Okay.
All right. Cherie wants to understand why she should have more than just herself in her LLC that she has.
Okay, Cherie, you're getting me off track here now, but the answer is, if you get attacked by some predator, if somebody gets a judgment over you or on you for anything, which includes the IRS, and they find out that you're the only owner of an LLC, they're going to come get that LLC because you're the only owner. They can get anything you own individually if they get a judgment against you. And that LLC would be one of the first things to go. So, and that means the bank account. They'll come grab the bank account, then you'll get told they got it. If you have more people in it with an undivided interest, perhaps, again, this is a question for your attorney, then they can't take an asset that is not wholly owned by you, but if you don't do it correctly, they can take your share of it. So again, get with a good firm on estate. I'm telling this to all of you. Please do this. Contact a good estate planning firm. There must be a tax attorney in it. There must be an asset protection attorney in it and an estate planning attorney in it, and get these heads together. And look, they do this for a living. They'll send you a questionnaire. You come in for an appointment. You show them what you got. You write down your questions and what bothers you. They put together a plan for you. And by the way, you're going to have a miserable time answering all the questions. You've never seen so many questions you never thought of before. Okay, once that's done, they put together a plan for you. They explain it to you. And if you say go, or I want this changed or this fixed, then they'll fix it. And they'll put together this book for you. And part of this book is protecting yourself the best you can from anybody who wants to chase you, creditors or predators or whatever. It's part of estate planning. It's just that simple. And until you get that done, you're what we call naked. You're running around out there without any protection. Now, I know you're saying, well, I'm not going to get sued and I'm not going to get a judgment against me. I'm a good American citizen, and I do the right thing all the time, and blah, 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 blah. So before you come to that naive conclusion, you might want to ask yourself, so does that mean that everyone that gets sued has done something evil and that they're guilty? You know the answer, okay? You don't ever know when you're going to get sued. You don't ever know when you're going to fall asleep in that car and drive it into a herd of people. You don't know, okay? Best thing to do is to protect yourself while you don't have animals chasing you. So because you're going to sleep better at night. And you might think your insurance covers. Your insurance ain't going to cover a fraction, especially if you created death or a serious injury. Your insurance is going to leave you high and dry, okay? So you want to get yourself in a position the best you can, and that's going to require some legal help in the state you're in, all right? That's as far as I'm going to take that. All right, Nick.
Alfonso clarified he meant the work for equity course, not the private lender course.
Oh.
Does that cover exiting with seller financing instead of lease options?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Not
right.
much difference, though.
Todd says, does the solo 401k own an LLC?
You can. Yeah.
I think you said in a previous one that it gets a checkbook, though, so you don't really...
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the best that I can know it can. Well, actually, the solo 401k is for your LLC, so I'm not sure it can own an LLC or not. I better retract that one. You need to check with your company that sets up your 401, or your 401k on that one. I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Can your solo 401k own an LLC, and yet the 401k is actually for your LLC, not for you personally, so I don't know the answer.
All right. Can my son have membership interest in the LLC that owns my solo 401k?
No. I'm almost certainly the answer is no. Husband and wife can be the only ones in the LLC.
All right. Alfonso again says, has the implementation bootcamp been updated since it was recorded? And will it continue to be updated as new features are added? Yeah, it was only recorded about a year ago. But yeah, we update it all the time whenever new features are added, or if the interface changes, then we make updates to it.
Okay.
Shauna says, can I add members to my single member LLC?
Yes, absolutely. And I suggest you do.
All right, and last question here from Linda says, if I understand correctly, free and clear seller finance deals and lease option deals go in the Roth self-directed IRA, but non-free and clear seller finance deals with debt
No.
go into the solo 401k.
Not true, Linda. The house can be free and clear, but if I give the seller back owner financing, that's debt. I'd put that in the 401k. Make no difference really whether it's free and clear or not. It's still going to come with debt.
All right, so your definition of debt is debt owed to you, not debt that
Any debt.
you owe out.
Any debt. If the seller owes a debt, that's a debt because you're literally going to take over that debt, or you're going to give them a wrapping around that debt. Either way, it's debt.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be debt you owe.
All right, that's it for now.
All right. Then let me move on here. Talk about why cashing out now might be a good idea. All right. Many of you have seen this chart before, and you need to see it again 6, 8 more times, because your CPA will not understand this, and you should take a picture of this screen right now, because you're going to need to show this to your CPA if you want to, and, if you have patience. Let's look at the house at the top. We're getting ready to cash that house out. Our tenant buyers called us and said, hey, we're going to get a loan approved pretty quickly. You say, well, okay, there goes another goose. And you are expecting to get $100,000 net from that sale of that $300,000 house. I don't know why that says your house sold for $50,000. That needs to come off there.
Right?
Huh?
That should be 300, right?
Yeah,
Your house sold for
300. That's wrong. Change that, John, will you?
Yeah.
All right.
You want to do it now? So they can take a screenshot?
Yeah, if you want.
All right.
Okay, go ahead and do it now while I'm talking. All right. So I sold my $300,000 house, cash, and I'm getting $100,000 check from it. All right. Now, I'd have to pay taxes on that 100 grand, probably long-term capital gains, or I can go to Plan 2. Plan 2 is I need to find 3 houses that I can spend that 100 grand on, but the catch is I'm going to find 3 houses with owner financing and use that 100 grand for down payments. This is the part your CPA won't understand, because he wouldn't know how to buy a house with owner financing if it jumped up and bit him in the fanny, nor would he believe you can do it. All right? Maybe you don't believe you can do it. You're going to spend 4 days with me, I promise you. In fact, you just get on that 5-hour seminar coming in and watch us do deals while you look. You can't deny that this is real. Now, especially when I'm putting up these big down payments to buy these houses, because I buy a lot of them with nothing down. Look at house number 1 on the left. So I'm going to go out and find me a $300,000 house, and I'm going to tell the seller I can put up $25,000 down. Believe me, you won't have any trouble getting a deal like that accepted. I can buy the same house, not that maybe that house, but many $300,000 houses with nothing down. Okay? The second house, we go look at a $600,000 house, and we're willing to put up $50,000. And John, to this date, that third one hasn't been changed. That's $25,000 down payment, not $50,000. So I'm going to buy another house and put up $25,000 down. All right. I fixed this chart once, but I don't know what happened to the fix. Huh?
It's fixing the manual.
Yeah. All right. So take a look across there, and I've spent 100 grand. But I've also acquired $1.4 million in real estate. Now, I buy these 3 houses with owner financing. What do you think I'm going to do with them? Well, of course, I'm going to lease option them out to tenant buyers. So house number 1, it's a $300,000 house. I'm going to get at least a $30,000 non-refundable deposit. House number 2, I'm going to get a $75,000 on a $600,000 house. And house number 3, I'm going to get a $50,000 deposit on a $500,000 house. So, I just collected. I'm just now look at my rents. I've collected. This don't even have the rents on it, does it? Anyway, I can tell you that I'm collecting. I think $1,600 in rents, where I was collecting $300 in rents. But look at the bottom. I've actually brought in $155,000, and I only put out $100,000. So I actually got back more money than I put into the exchange. Now, when you're doing an exchange, you have to, that $100,000 got to go to an intermediary, and they hold the money until you use it to buy something. Now, most cases, you take one property, you trade it into another property. I mean, you don't trade it. You take the money and you buy another property, but you put that money into that other property. In this case, we're selling 1 and we're buying 3, and we get back more money than we put into the exchange. Not only that, we get back 3 or 4 times more asset value, 4 or 5 times more cash flow. And here's the good part, you get to keep that $155,000 because it has nothing to do with this exchange. That's your money. You can do whatever you want to do with it. There's no intermediary holding it. Once these 3 properties close, your exchange is done. Now, a couple rules. You have to identify these 3 properties within 45 days after the first one is closed. You have 180 days to close on them, or they don't get into the exchange. So if it were me, I'd go find the 3 properties, get a contract on them to buy them with owner financing before I let the first property close. That way, you know you already got them identified, and your 45 days is now moot. Close on them right away, very shortly after we closed on the sale of that first house. Guys, what's on your screen there right now will keep you from paying income taxes on property for the rest of your life, if you get it. And you can go check 1031 rules all you want, let your CPA do it, let whoever you want to do it. There's nothing that says you can't take that 1 house and buy 3 houses with it with owner financing. So it's a beautiful thing. No taxes now, and when you die and your kids inherit the houses, they're going to do stepped up basis, so they get to start all over. Now, what if I want to sell one of them? Well, sooner or later, those 3 houses down at the bottom are going to sell and cash out. Well, what do you think I'm going to do with them? Yep, I'm going to take that money and buy 3 more houses with it. So pretty soon it looks like an Amway chart. 1 turns into 3, 3 turns into 9, and on and on and on. This is all you need to know to not pay taxes upon the sale of a cash out property. You can also buy in your IRA. You can buy in your solo 401k, or you can do this triple exchange. One of these 3 will certainly keep you from paying taxes. If you remember these 3, and you're going to have to discuss these with your CPA, but honestly, be very careful, because your CPA doesn't understand this buying real estate stuff. He knows your IRA can buy real estate. He knows your 401k can buy real estate. Once shown this triple exchange, he will understand it, I think, but he won't believe you're going to be able to go out and buy 3 houses with owner financing. So again, you don't need his permission to do this, but make sure that you know all three of these available, so when you get ready to cash out, you don't just cash out and pay the taxes. You know, even if you wanted to cash out and pay the taxes, 15% of the $100,000, okay, that's not a lot, but why on earth would you do that when you have an opportunity to acquire 3 times as much property, 4 times as much cash flow? You'd still want to do it my way, regardless of how much money you'd have to pay in taxes cashing out of that house. Kind of makes a point for cashing out, doesn't it? Because I spent the last hour talking about not cashing out. So guess what? You get to decide. You get to decide when the goose lives, when the goose dies, and to a point, because your tenant buyers might want to cash you out sooner or later. By the way, the hotter the market, the more of them are going to actually go get a loan and buy the property. So I can tell you, on the houses that need work, the chances are really low that they're actually going to go do the work, get qualified, and get a loan. So you're going to have some of both. And sometimes, look, if I buy a house that needs rehabbed and I'm paying cash for it, I've only got one exit strategy, to be honest with you. I'm going to buy the house, I'm going to rehab it, and I'm going to cash it out, period. I am not going to go rehab a house to an nth degree and then put a tenant buyer in it. I just don't want to do that, and I have to rehab it later. Now, here's the problem with that. If I do that, I cannot, this 1 for 3 is meant for investment properties, okay? If I'm buying and selling, I just can't go buy, resell, and go get 3 and get away with it because it doesn't look like an investment property. So if I buy a house and rehab it, if I can, I'm going to do it in my Roth IRA. So now I got no taxes if I did not borrow the private loan. Okay, let's say I'm buying it and rehabbing it and cashing out of it, and I don't have the money in my Roth IRA. Well, if I buy it in my solo 401k and it borrows private money to do it, then I also don't have any tax consequences either. You need to understand how all 3 of these things work so you'll know when to apply them. All right. John, you got me set up? All right, guys, what I'm going to do now, for all of you folks that is watching that have not been to my Quick Start School, I'm going to take a couple minutes and tell the rest of you what it's all about. I've got a great deal for you today. In fact, if you've already been, go ahead and tune out now so I don't piss you off with the deal I'm about to give everybody else. Go away. All right. But if you haven't been to the Quick Start School, pay attention, because I'm going to give you a chance to get in now. And I'll be honest, if you're going to buy and sell houses, this is the best place for you to be, because I've launched a lot of multi-million-dollar careers on this 4-day event. And today, you get a chance to do it virtual and live for the same price. So if you're ready, I'm ready. It took me a long time to get to this point. I'm in my 39th year of this business. Global Publishing been around since 1999, and I had another company well before that. So we have been servicing our clients for a lot of years, and we have become the best there is in our industry at what we do. So if you want me to, I can help you shave a lot of years off your learning curve. It does take cooperation on your part. I can teach you what cost me so many millions of dollars to learn, and we're going to do it in a 4-day event. It's called Quick Start Real Estate School. Now, I still teach this event to this very day, whether it be live or virtual. You're going to learn about wholesaling. You're going to learn about the ACT system. That's where you just assign contracts and get a check. We're going to cover the entire pretty house business, free and clear houses, non-free and clear houses, lease options, owner financing, and everything that goes with it, step by step. And we're also going to do live deals. The very first night, for example, the last hour and a half of the day is all about structuring live deals. My team will be calling them all day, structuring deals with leads you send in, and we'll give you instructions on doing that. And by the way, that simply means you get a hold of a seller and ask them a few questions. It has nothing to do with negotiating. We don't want you to negotiate with them. And if you don't want to do that, our VAs will do it for you. Okay, just get a VA and tell them you want some leads called. Okay, you send them to us. If it's virtual, you bring them to class. If it's not virtual, and my team will start calling them and see how many deals we can generate. Here's what I know. We just did a boot camp 2 weeks ago. We got 17 deals. It was virtual. 17 deals out of that boot camp. We did one last month. We got 23 deals out of that boot camp. When I say deals, I mean our team called sellers, got sellers to agree to terms and agree on what terms before they got off the telephone. And then I talk about these every day. I go through these deals that they've done. Now on the first night, they're going to call them live. You're going for an hour and a half, you're going to hear my team calling sellers live, and you're going to hear both sides of the conversation. I don't know how you can dispute this information. Guys, the best way I know to teach is to actually do what we're teaching while we're teaching it. This is incredible 90 minutes. You're going to learn how to raise capital, because we are going to talk about ugly houses during this event. And in fact, we're going to go out on a bus in a live event. Probably will not in December. I can tell you that right now because of COVID. But I think after the first year, we're going to go back onto the bus, taking bus trips. But it doesn't matter, because the truth is, I've replaced the bus trip, wrote a really, really cool video of Jay Connor and myself in his city going through 2 houses that need repaired and 2 houses that he's renovated. It was really a great exercise and a great video. We went through things with a fine-tooth comb. Here's what we did. Here's what it cost. Here's what we will do. Here's what it will cost. And it came out really, really good. In fact, I could say it's probably even better than a bus trip, because we get right to the meat of the issue and not have to ride around on the streets. So either way, you're going to learn a wholesaling business, the rehab business, and you're going to learn it by doing it and by watching us do it as well, right in front of you, hopefully on your leads. The last day is going to be all about selling houses fast in ways you have never heard of before, all with automation built in, systemization built in, delegation. Everything we do to sell a house is all delegated out. We have other people doing it for very small amounts of money. We have a service that will answer your calls from the buyers. We don't even have to do that. They'll find out how much they got to put down, how much they got per month. You're only going to get on the phone with people who've got something to work with, and you have a reason to get on the phone with them. We do not show houses. We put a lockbox on the house and let them go into their own houses after we get information on them. And then we got a whole system to attract the buyers to call us. We got a buyer's list all done for you to put that information in, and that becomes one of your most valuable assets, because now, once you get some buyers in this thing, now you are looking for houses for buyers and not buyers for houses. And you won't sell more than 1 or 2 houses, and you're going to have more buyers than you can handle. Remember, our buyers are people who cannot qualify today. They are 70% of the market looking for houses. They cannot qualify today, but they can somewhere in the future. All right, how much, Ron? What do you care? It's cheap. In 1991, I did my first boot camp. We charged $49.95. We charged that amount all the way up through 2008. And then we decided, okay, let's lower it. And we did. But that's a lot of money, isn't it? Yep. I mean, you could buy a big screen TV for that, crying out loud. How many deals you got to do to get back that measly $5,000 if that's what I charged you? The answer is less than 1, because the minimum deal, even on a wholesale deal that I want anybody to do, is $10,000. Okay? $10,000 is the minimum, and that's on them cheap, ugly wholesale deals. When I do a pretty house deal, I won't touch it for less than $20,000 up front in a non-refundable deposit. Because when we're doing pretty house deals, we start at the medium and we go up. Ugly house deals, we start at the medium, we go down. Higher price, more dollars you wallow in, more stick to you. So it only takes about $250,000 house to get a $20,000 upfront non-refundable deposit. And frankly, it should all be done within the first 30 days of getting the contract if the seller is getting out of the house quickly. So guys, one deal will pay for all the education you can possibly get. And that's all it takes. And if you work with me, we might even get that deal under contract before you even get to the next boot camp. And I'll show you in a minute how I can work with you personally. But you won't pay $49.95, and you're going to get all this for free. You're going to get these systems. One of them is called Terms. It's all about the pretty house business. There's 12 sessions in it alone. step-by-step guide on how to do the terms deals. All the forms, agreements, and documents are right in there. And then the last 2 CDs are me calling sellers live. Well, CDs if you want CDs. The other course is wholesaling, flipping houses without rehabbing, and then there's a whole course on rehabbing and flipping houses. Altogether, we call these my cash flow systems. They sell it for $19.97 by themselves, and you can get them now, digital or hard copy. If you want hard copy, you got to let us know, because truthfully, very few people get that anymore. They all want the digital because they cannot stick that DVD in their cell phone. But we will ship you the manual. If you get the digital version, we're going to get you a link immediately, and we'll ship you the manual, but we'll also send you the manual by link as well, so you can download. I just can't imagine you want to print. This manual's about that thick, and I doubt you want to print this sucker out, so we're going to give you one to look at while you're waiting for us to ship you one. Do a terms deal in 90 days, and I'm going to send you a $1,000 check. Why? Because I can. It's a shameless pride to get you moving. You're going to have the tools you need in the terms course to do that, and I want you to get to the first event you can, so you have a great chance of actually getting $1,000 from me. If I send you a $1,000 check, you better frame it, because it'll probably be the last one I send you. And we send a ton of them, guys. All you need to do is a deal that nets you at least $3,000 and send me proof, and we'll send you a $1,000 check. No catch. You're also eligible to get our hotline for free. There's no extra charge. Once you register for this event, the hotline starts the day you graduate from the event, and you can use it 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, and we have a feller that's dedicated to doing nothing but being on the end of that hotline for you to answer your questions. So you don't feel like this cat, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I don't want you to be out there by yourself trying to do deals with nobody to talk to. I want to get letters like this from you, where this young lady made $125,000 because she had somebody to talk to. Well, you'll always have somebody to talk to. You can come back to my live event or my virtual event for the first year at 0 cost. All you got to do is register. You may come back to my live event after the first year for only $500. So I want you to come back and get continuous education. These things are always changing. They're always being upgraded, and we are always on the cutting edge. You have 30 days, totally reverse your decision. There is no conditions. There is no form to fill out. There is no restocking fee or any of that other crap. If you get in here today and you decide that, hey, some reason I got to get out, just let us know and you'll get out. If you register here today and your spouse tells you you could take that back or you'll get a divorce, well, it's your decision, but I'll help you make it if you want. All right, I'm going to give you a $1,200 discount if you register by 2 p.m. today, which gives you about 20 minutes. If you register after 2 p.m., I'm going to give you a $1,000 discount. That's called Make a Decision and Take Action discount. So it's going to cost you $200 to wait till after the next 25 minutes. If you are a veteran or first responder, please take $500 off with my compliments. We love our veterans, we love our first responders, and this includes anybody who works in a hospital. You may use Gold Club points for up to half of your balance. Gold Club points are worth $1. So you can pay for up to half of this with those points. We got people out there with over 20,000 Gold Club points. Okay? Whatever you got, we'll know when you call in, and we'll immediately apply it if you tell us you want to. So here's the final answer. It will be $34.95 if you're a veteran. I'm sorry, $34.95 if you procrastinate and you're a veteran or a first responder. $32.95 if you are a first responder. What am I reading? $37.95 if you're not a first responder, $32.95 if you are. Okay. Now remember, you get to take your Gold Club points off of that, so you can cover half of that with points if you have them. This is our marriage certificate. It says that you and I are going to work together for the next 90 days as soon as you get your courses. and we're going to work together for 90 days. And I'm going to ask you to send me property information sheets. I will personally screen them and send them back to you. Yes, it comes to me, it comes to Tish, she sends it directly to me. Now, your instructions will be in your terms course. Please understand now, you can't send me property information sheets until you've had a conversation with the seller so you can fill them out. Once you've done that, if you need help with them, send them to me, and I'll either email you and tell you why it's no good, or I'll call you and tell you, hey, this looks like a winner, here's what you're going to do next. It's unlimited, so you can use me for the next 90 days. What do you think the chances are of you doing a deal with I'm on your other side? By the way, I don't care where I'm at, because I'm doing a lot of camping nowadays. I don't care. I get email wherever I go, and I'm happy to work with you. Now, this certificate must come with your property information sheet, so I'll know that you're eligible. Now, brand new, the first 20 only, when we're 1 through 20, that call in right now, we're going to throw 250 Gold Club points in the pot for you. You cannot use them for this event because you won't even get them until next week, but you can use them for anything in the future pretty much that we do. You cannot use them for VA service, so, but it's like giving you 250 bucks. So here's a recap, get all of that, everything that's on there, plus brand new today. We just finished taping a 3-day event called Finding Motivated Sellers in Any Market. It turned out to be an incredible event. 3 days of it, okay? I brought in about 7 outside real estate pros to tell you what they do to find motivated sellers, and it was going to blow you away. I even had a dreams expert on there to spend some time teaching you about dreams. I put in a bunch of my own stuff as well. And by the way, these methods are free. Some of them are paid. None of them are grossly expensive. And by the time you get through watching these 3 days, you're not going to worry about ever finding deals again. You're just going to have to pick and choose what of these things you want to use. If you're starting on a pauper's budget, there's plenty of things you can do free to get sellers to call you. Now, I'm going to spend the afternoon teaching you that in the Quick Start School, but this goes way beyond that. Throw that in free. That's a $2,000 gift I'm giving you if you register today. You're welcome. When's that going to be available anyway, Nick? That's not available? Next week, okay. Well, it's Friday, so all this is available next week, right? When will they get the link? Monday?
I would probably give it a couple more days, maybe Wednesday, as you said.
Wednesday? Okay. I'm talking about for the Quick Start School.
Quick Start, they'll get, as soon as they sign up, they'll get.
As soon as you sign up, you'll get the link for Quick Start School. So they can get it today.
Yeah, you're talking about for terms courses?
Yeah, the terms course, yeah. Now, if you already own my term system, many of you do because you bought it from the webinar. You paid $897 for it. I'm going to give you back $1,000 for it. You can take that $1,000 right off your purchase price for Quick Start because it's included in your Quick Start price anyway. Got to do it now. And you can use your IRA, your 401k. You got to call in, tell them you want to use your 401k or IRA, and they'll tell you how to do it. If you need financing, we have that for you outside. We have up to a $15,000 credit line, no interest, 6 months. And you'll know while you're on the phone if you're approved and for how much, up to 15 grand. That means if you're approved for, I don't know, what, 4 grand, you just paid for the boot camp, no money down and no interest for 6 months. And you can use that card outside of us. It's a credit line. They send you a credit card and you put it right in your pocket. You don't have to spend it on us. If that doesn't work, we'll finance you. There's no credit check. We trust you. $1,500 down, 12 payments and no interest. Cost you $500 more. But golly, that won't make a bit of difference to you after you spend the first 2 hours with me in class. What's the worst can happen if you say yes right now? I don't know. I guess the worst can happen is you lose $3,500 or whatever it is. But if that's the case, because you decided not to do anything, but that is the worst can happen. It won't, but that is the worst. So please don't let this time go by. I gave you till 2 o'clock. You have 15 minutes. You should be on the phone right now if you want to do this, because you're going to cost you $200 if you wait. And this 90-day thing with me, that only applies to people that I'm sitting in front of. They cannot offer you that in the customer service department. If you're only when you're watching me can you get that 90-day and use it. My God, use it. I love it when you send me leads because, hey, somewhere in there there's a deal for you. But only for the first 20, and they will be numbered. One deal you're in. When you're coming to the live event, you may bring your parent, child, spouse, significant other, or somebody in your business. And if you want to bring a third guest, it's $500. Obviously, if you're coming to a virtual event, they can all be right there in front of the TV watching it. It's tax deductible because it is a business expense. Let Uncle Sam pay for it, all right? Pay for part of it, I mean. And don't downplay that. Look, if you write a check for $3,000 and you're in a 25% tax bracket, my friend, that's $750 you do not have to spend to the IRS just because you purchased this. And you can also write off your travel, your food, and all of that is a business expense. And by the way, one of the things I'm going to teach in this is an asset protection entity structuring class to show you how to use entities to lower your taxes and to protect yourself as well. I teach that in the afternoon of the third day. Your next November event is virtual, and the December event is live in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, where I live, and it will be live. We wanted to get done in Orlando. We didn't make it. Had problems with the hotel. I can promise you in December we will be live in Jacksonville. So if you register for that one, make sure you get on your arrangements quickly. And yes, you can come to the virtual in November and then come back to the live in December and no extra charge. You do them both. Every month we have a conference call with boot camp graduates only. It's the last Monday of the month. It's for only those who graduate, speak the same language. You can send in deals, ask questions, and the whole works. Well, I'm working with a local mentor. I don't need your training. Well, who do you think trains your local mentor? Huh? Come to the Papa, and then whoever you might want to have for your mentor, you're going to be a whole lot better student after you've been trained. Guys, let's be honest. You cannot learn this business on the telephone with somebody. It ain't going to happen. These 4 days are absolute focused training where we take you step by step while you're watching it been done right before your face. You cannot get that with any mentor. Mentors are designed to help you implement, not to train you. And this tuition is very, very inexpensive to compare to what it's going to cost you if you decide, nope, can't afford it. Well, you can't afford not to do it, in my opinion. It is truly, if you want to do this business, it is the most important event you're ever going to attend. But Ryan, I spent a lot of money and I ain't rich yet. Yeah, me too. But I figured out what the problem was. Sadly, it was me. You see, there's a whole lot of stuff out there you can learn from. A lot of it's free, usually worth exactly what it costs. Many of those people I taught real estate, and then I taught them the art of teaching real estate. They're all my children. But here's the big problem with learning is that without implementation, you've got nothing, okay? Here at Global, we got all the implementation already done for you. All the systems are already set up. There's nothing you have to go home and find. We got people doing all the work for you so that you're ready to go before you get, even before you get to class. You're going to be set up and ready to go. So all you got to do is focus on making decisions and running your business, not all the grunt work. And then maybe we can get some letters like this from you. We got them from all over the country. Everywhere. We still get them to this very day. Our walls here in Jacksonville in our currently vacant buildings are filled with these things. I'd like to get yours. There's one from Jacksonville, crying out loud. Everywhere we look. And we love getting them. We never get tired of getting them. Maybe pretty soon we can have yours up here. All right, so the discounts are going to expire, all of them at 4. Your chance to work with me will expire at 4. You'll lose $200 if you don't get on the phone right now and get registered before 2. And if you get a busy signal, please be patient. Tell them you called, you got a busy signal, and we'll get you that $200 off. Remember, we got financing in-house and outside. And if you've attended this event after 2015, it's only $500 to return to the live event. plus, or get the virtual link. Right, Nick? I can get the virtual link and or come back to the live event for $500, right? So if you're in a hurry to start getting checks, now would be a really good time to come to Papa. Get on the phone right now, number's in front of you, and call, and I'm going to take some more questions.
All right, first question is from Derek. It says, when taking over debt, do you still need to use a private lender to do the repairs if you don't have the cash?
If you do the repairs, Derek, there's no law that says you have to do the repairs. Remember the Work for Equity program? And that really largely depends on how bad a shape it's in, because sometimes if it's really, really atrocious, like, I don't know, rotten roof, something that would scare people, I might want to try to raise the money to fix that and then put it back out on Work for Equity. I do that, from time to time. But it depends on the condition of the house. But if you got enough equity in it, yeah, you can borrow private money to do the repairs, but you're going to have equity in it. Remember, private lenders are not going to exceed 70% of the value. So let's say you got a loan on it that your seller owes, that's 50% of the value. That means you can only borrow 20% more of the value on top of that. And frankly, that's a good use for private money, especially for those who have small amounts of money to invest. Okay.
All right. Glenn says, can someone sell the LLC to you containing a property?
Yes, but your attorney will advise you not to because they don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the LLC. But yeah, they can sell the LLC.
Okay. If they
And they can do the same with a trust.
If they did that, and you already have an LLC, do you have to pay another set of taxes?
No. Well, remember now, if somebody sells you an LLC or a land trust, nothing downtown has changed. The title is still in that LLC. There are no closing costs. However, from the day you buy it, now you got to bring it into your books, and sellers got to take it out of their books. So that's just between you and your CPA. But since the property has not transferred ownership, there are no closing costs.
All right. Keith says, can I use the profit from a house I rehabbed and sold a month ago?
I
think he means in the 1031 exchange.
Sorry, you have to name your three. Well, no, because you didn't put the money in an intermediary's hands. So you got to get a hold of the intermediary before you sell the house, because they're going to be in communication with the closing agent. Give them instructions. If you sold it a month ago, it's too late for that one.
All right. Camlesh says, what do you mean by CF? I think that was on your diagram as well. It's cash flow.
CF?
Yeah.
Cash flow, right.
All right. James says, what's the site that will take and make the payments for you if you're in a sandwich lease?
Answer it.
Escrowserve.com with no W in escrow and no E at the end of serve. So ESCROSERV.com.
The $50 setup fee and $15 a month, which I pass on to my buyer.
All right. James says, what's the site or company that will take, make, and give you the difference of the monthly payment? We just answered that. Dorothy says, why are you limited to 3 houses? Can you do 10 properties with $10,000 down each?
Oh, God, Dorothy, I knew you were going to bring that up. And the answer is you're not limited to 3 houses. But I think you probably got all you do just to get to 3 houses. Remember, you've only got 45 days to name them. And the rules change a little when you go beyond 3. You're going to have to find an intermediary and have that discussion with them. And by the way, if your intermediary don't know you can exchange 1 for the 3 with owner financing, you probably got the wrong intermediary. I'd keep looking.
All right. Glenn says, is there a manual for this course? I don't know if he means this course that we're taking right now. Not today. There is a manual, of course, for Quick Start, if you were talking about that.
Yeah, if you're talking about Quick Start, certainly a manual. We ship you that.
And there's not one for
we don't have a
today's
manual
class.
for today's.
All right. Robert says, how do you convince them of doing 0 down?
I don't convince them. I ask them questions and I let them answer them. So here's how it goes. Nick's going to be my seller. Nick, what's the least you could take for the house again?
I would say 230,000.
Okay, honestly, is that the best you can do?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, we usually buy with nothing down, okay?
Okay.
Okay. And I see you're paying $1,384 a month. If you don't, if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and keep paying that till it's paid off.
So you'll cover my payment?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Good. Next thing we got to do is make an appointment for me to come see the house. All right. So, tell me, who made whom the offer? Nick made me the offer. I didn't make him the offer. I didn't get him to take nothing down. I asked him if it was okay. He said yes. If he would have said no, I'd have said, well, then what is the least you could take down? He would have gave me a number. And I'd have said, really? I usually put nothing down. How close to nothing can you get? And we worked them down. And that one question will determine whether I'm going to go look at the house or not. Because if they want one great down payment, I'm wasting my time, and I know it, and I'll just point blank tell them that. You know, when you get closer to nothing, let me know, and I'll be happy to come out and take a look at the house.
Will this be available for replay?
I don't know. Do we know?
Sure.
Well, okay. He says sure. He's the one that makes it happen. So you'll just have to watch for your emails and find out when.
Yeah, it'll be posted automatically here to Facebook and YouTube, so it'll just be up unless the information becomes outdated at some point. We'll probably just leave this one up.
This information is not going to come outdated.
Okay.
Numbers are the same.
All right, Christy says, when does class start? I don't know if she's talking about this class or she might be talking about quick start.
Christy, I don't know what you mean. What time in the morning, or what day of the week, or what are you talking about? I'm a little lost on that one, so I'll answer them both. Usually, it's Wednesday through Saturday, and it starts at 8 a.m. Well, is it when it's virtual? What times it start?
Yeah, 9 a.m. virtual is when it starts.
Yeah,
9 a.m.
that's Eastern now.
Yeah, we've got the next virtual is November 10th through 13th, and that one's virtual. And that is, let me check, that is a Tuesday through Friday.
Tuesday through Friday.
And then the live one in Jacksonville, December 9th through 12th, is Wednesday through Saturday, and those start at 8 a.m. local time.
We're going to have some fun on that one. We're going to feed you dinner and do all kinds of cool things when we get to a live one.
Okay. All right. Corey says, is there a way to structure, say, a owner finance deal where my down payment to the seller offsets my income from the down payment of my buyer for tax purposes, so I'm paying little or no taxes?
No. Your down payment to your seller, your down payment from your buyer is all taxable. However, whatever your purchase price is gets deducted from that, and that includes your down payment to your seller. But hey, in this country, when you make money, Uncle wants his part, okay? Unless you do what I just showed you to do. Now, here's a point. People ask me all the time, is that non-refundable deposit taxable in the year you get it? And the answer is probably, because it is non-refundable. However, now when you go cash out of that house and you use the 1031 exchange, that's part of that purchase price. So you'll wind up getting a credit. Even though you might have paid taxes this year, you'll get a credit in the year that you sell the property. Your CPA will figure that out.
Okay. If I buy a house using my Roth, am I correct in assuming the monthly cash flow doesn't go into my pocket right away?
If you buy a house using your Roth, there better not be one nickel come out of that thing going in your pocket, or you're self-dealing. And self-dealing means if the IRS steps in and catches you, they will disallow your IRA from when it was started and charge you taxes on everything you thought was tax-free. No, we do not get compensated in any way, shape, or form from our IRA until the money goes back into the IRA and you draw it out properly. You cannot take a nickel out of your IRA for profit or out of the LLC that owns your IRA. No checks written to you, or up or down, or any entity you own.
All right. Alfonso says, is there a difference between a comparative market analysis that a realtor does and us running comps to get the
Nope.
R for a property?
Except the realtor's using the MLS, we're using other sites.
Okay. Carol says I skipped her question. I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't see your question. I'm scrolling through, I still don't see any questions from Carol. Yeah, we didn't see your question, Carol.
Put it up there again, Carol.
All right, Alfonso again says, if we're in the mentoring program, are we supposed to get the seller financing and how to find motivated sellers course for free? If so, will that be a physical course? I don't think so.
It's not going to be a physical course if you mean DVDs and such. It's going to be a link. If you're in the mentoring program, I'll tell you what you do, Alfonso. You call that number and you ask them and make your case and plead for mercy and see what they'll do for you, because I don't want to answer that because I get in trouble here. Hey, I might get fired if I give you the wrong answer.
All right.
By the way, all you folks that are calling to register for the Quick Start, and you are, ask them about the mentoring. I didn't go over that today, but you literally can get one-on-one mentoring for 6 months to pretty much guarantee you're going to get checks during that 6-month period. One-on-one help from mentors who actually do this business every single day. I personally chose them. So ask them about it while you're calling, and you get a better deal if you buy them both simultaneously.
All right. Carol says, if you needed the money, would you be able to get the difference back between $100,000 and $155,000 once the house is closed?
Carol, I think you missed it. If I put up to 100 and I put the 3 tenant buyers in the house, I'm already getting 155 back from my new deposits, which has nothing to do with 100 because I've already put it into down payments. Now, if I want to take some money out of that 100, I can. I don't have to spend it all, but on the other hand, I get taxed on it if I take it out. I mean, why would you do that? Assuming you can find 3 houses that you can buy with owner financing, because if you don't, you're going to pay tax on the whole 100 anyway. You only got 45 days to name these 3 houses. Okay, suppose you only name 2. Well, if I was you, I'd get rid of the 100 grand on the 2, okay, if I can't find 3. Because remember, I can take those 2 and probably get my 100 grand back, but, you know, not if I'm buying $150,000 houses. If you got $50,000 to put down on a house, you can buy $1 million house easily. I'm telling you, very easily. We got several of them 2 weeks ago for nothing down. So why don't you go buy $2 million worth of houses at $50,000 each, and think of what that does to your portfolio and your cash flow. This is why you need a mentor, guide you through this stuff. Go ahead.
All right. Gene says, is the business management boot camp on November 18th through 20th virtual?
Yes.
Okay. Does the seller financing make sense if the seller has HOA fees of about $500 and there is no equity? The exit plan is to do a lease option on it.
I don't know. You didn't give me the rest of the details. You didn't give me a single number, condition of the house, payment. You can give me any of that. So obviously, if it's got a $500 fee and you think the payment is reasonable, so somebody will pay, well, sometimes even if they'll cover the payment, the $500 transfer, I'm going to let them pay that anyway. Just have to disclose it to them. So, you know, if I get some equity, even if I don't get some equity, the only way I'm going to make money if I don't get equity, which is I think the question says, right? No equity? Well, the only way I can raise money, I get money out of it, is to raise the price some, and there's only so much I can raise that price. So the higher priced house it is, the more dollars I'll get. But if, you know, I got to have a payday here somewhere. So if I don't get a monthly spread, then I can always put it under contract and assign my contract to somebody else who'll give me $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to take over that position. It's called ACTS, Assignment of Contracts and Terms of System. That's exactly what it is. I got nothing to lose because I'm going to get 90 days from the seller to find that person that I want to put in the house. And if I don't find them, then the 90 days is over. The seller gets to decide whether they want to keep going or back out. So seller has no risk other than 90 days. I have 0 risk. So I put it out into the market, find out what the market will pay. Remember, 70% of the market can't qualify for a loan. They will pay more. They'll pay more per month, and a bunch of them are running around with money because they can't go to the bank and get a loan. And that's going to, I'm telling you, that's going to get tougher and tougher next year. Go ahead.
All right. Alfonso says, does the Genius Scan app allow you and sellers and buyers to sign contracts, or does it only scan documents so they can be sent back and forth?
It only scans documents, but you probably want to use DocuSign for that or something similar.
They did add there's Genius Sign, which you can add to it, and that way you can send documents. I think the Wolves told us about that
I
in the
didn't know
last
that.
event.
Genius Sign.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Christina says, if you enrolled in Quick Start School for November and mentoring, how could I get assistance for my leads today?
If you enrolled in Quick Start School for November and mentoring, that means you already have a mentor. All right. So if you've got a mentor, that's where you're going to get your assistance. And if you enrolled for November, I mean, you didn't tell me when you enrolled.
Oh, I think because we don't start the mentoring until about 30 days out to start helping with that.
Well, we're about 30 days out now. So call in and tell them you'd like to start your mentoring now, which is okay, because that'll prepare you for the event. And also get you a bunch of leads between now and then that you can start working before the event happens. But more importantly, if you get your mentor now and we get you a deal during the event, and your mentor's already there to follow up with you immediately, because we're going to make an appointment a day or two after the event's over. And that's when your mentor needs to be on the phone while you're in the house so that they can talk to the seller for you, take the pressure off of you, which is one of the things they do. Okay? So just call in and tell them you want a mentor now. Tell them Ron said.
We also have that terms event coming up that we're going to be doing some deal structuring on too.
Yeah, that's October the 9th.
9th. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Kay says 1031 exchange. Can you exchange only 1 or 2 properties for your property, or is there a minimum of 3 houses that you must exchange?
No. The minimum is 1. Okay? You can exchange for as many as you can get, but hey, like my grandmother says, don't make your eyes bigger than your belly. Quit worrying about how many. Go find 3. All right? And then if you're within your 45 days, go find some more if you want. But remember, you got to use up the $100,000. Once you do that, you're done. So if you think you're going to go out and get a bunch of houses with owner financing, you don't have to offer them 25 and 50 and 25. Just offer them less. Okay? Worst case is you have money left over and you have to take it out and pay taxes on it, which ain't going to be a big problem, especially when you're collecting all that non-refundable option deposits from the tenant buyers you put in the house. Granted, more houses are better. But also, there's a couple rules there now you need to understand when you go beyond 3.
All right. Alfonso says, when doing the math on a junker, should we be adding an additional amount for a hedge factor over and above the 30% of the ARV and the repair cost to cover surprise repairs?
That's built within the 30% of the ARV, Alfonso, but that does not include commissions and it does not include interest on any private money that you get. But it is part of the 30%.
All right. I've never done real estate. My mom will lend me money from her 401k to buy a flip. Then the plan is to owner finance it. Should I get her into a self-directed IRA first or infinite banking?
And your mom cannot loan you money from her IRA because you are in her family. That would be self-dealing on her part. She'd be doing it not even knowing she's doing it. Okay?
This was from
401k,
Yeah.
you're going to have to ask the administrator of that 401k whether she can loan you money or not. But honestly, this may sound self-serving, but your question scares me because you go borrowing money out of your mom's retirement account and you've not been trained and really have no idea what you're doing. You would scare me because I'd say the odds are against you. If I were you, I'd let her lend you the money to come get trained, and that's going to be worth way more to you than any house. And then from there, you have a better idea what you're doing. And if you really want to learn the rehab business, my friend Jay Connor is going to be doing a 3-day event this December, I think, right? On nothing but rehabs.
I'm not sure when it was because we postponed that one.
Oh, we postponed it?
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, come get trained before you go trying to do this business and risking somebody else's money, especially your mom's, for crying out loud. That scares the crap out of me.
All right. Kay in Florida says, must you always use a third-party intermediary when doing any type of 1031
Yes.
exchange?
Don't care where they're at, but you have to use one. In fact, the last one I did was in California there, the intermediary was. I'm in Florida.
All right. That was our last question.
Okay. Well, if that's all you guys got, oh man, look at there. It's 10 after 2. That was as good a guess as I could give you. We plugged in 2 hours. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope you use the information that you got, and hope you get out there and get something going on. If you don't forget, if you've been to my training, you get to come back for free for a year, and only $500 after that. So I suggest you do it. You're going to find some big changes in it. And again, don't forget the October 9th one is free. We also have a couple more things coming up. We got a paper power event coming up in soon, end of October. 2-day paper power event that has to do with all the paper that's attached to real estate, like mortgages, deeds of trust, liens, judgments, and so forth. You'll really enjoy that because you'll not get that information anywhere else on the planet. Because the 2 guys teaching it, me and a guy named Bob Leonetti, are probably the only ones alive that still understand this stuff. So anyway, with that said, thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Go make some money.